Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3 of Islamic Wealth Management Group A. So today, for this assignment of Islamic Economic, we are presenting to you guys the unfair contract term in Malaysian Islamic Bank.
The problem is they often contain unfair terms. That term give bank an unfair advantage and frequently go against the core Islamic principle of fairness, justice, and transparency. We see vogue language, extensive fee, and clauses clearly flouting the bank. Even Bank Negara Malaysia in its review from 2016 until 2019 has highlighted serious issue with the unfair term. Customers often don't read their contract because they're so long, complex, and full of technical jargon. This leaves us vulnerable. We agree to terms that earn in our best interest. A major court case in 2018, CIMB Pemberhad versus Anthony Lauren Walk and Honor truly show how hard is it for customer to challenge their term. So what the solution? Empowering customers through Islamic Financial Literacy or IFL. IFL is then just knowing about money. This integrates Islamic religious and ethical value. When customers are educated in Islamic finance, they're better equipped to question contract, identify unreasonable or non-Sharia compliant clauses, and demand clarification. This knowledge empowers us to make informed financial decisions, and ultimately it helps to shift the power balance away from banks and toward consumer, leading to fairness and more sustainable financial system for everyone.
Islamic banking is a banking system that follows Islamic or Sharia law. It is based on principles like sharing profit and risk, ensuring fairness, and making sure all transactions are linked to real business activity or asset. In Islamic finance, combining different contracts is common. This helps create new financial products that meet modern customer needs. When consumers buy goods or service, they enter into contract. These contracts are usually standard form created by business with fixed terms that consumer cannot change. It is important for this contract to be fair. If the terms are one-sided and unfair to customer, the contract can be considered invalid in many countries. In Malaysia banking sector, standard form contract are widely used. This contract outline the relationship between bank and their customer and describe the service offer. However, many of these contracts have unfair terms that heavily favor the bank. Customers often have no choice but to accept this term or risk being denied financing. In summary, the use of standard contract in Malaysia Islamic banking system often puts someone at a disadvantage. To ensure fairness, it is important to remove these unfair terms and help consumers understand their right and option.
I will be presenting discussion from our research, which explore unfair contract term in Malaysian Islamic Bank and how Islamic financial literacy can play a key role in addressing this issue. Let's begin by understanding what unfair contract terms are. In Islamic banking, most agreements are based on what we call standard form contract. These are pre-written by the bank, and customers usually don't get to negotiate the term. The contract becomes unfair when there is a significant imbalance, giving the bank more power and placing the customer at a disadvantage. From a legal point of view, this violates the principle of fairness. And more importantly, from an Islamic perspective, it goes against core Sharia value such as adl, justice, moral uncertainty, jahalah, ambiguity, and wish deception. So, if a contract had crucial information, passes risk unfairly, or causes harm, it's failed to meet Islamic ethical standard. Is this really happening in Malaysia? The answer is yes. Between 2016 and 2019, Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) raised red flag about this issue. They reported bold contract language, excessive fee, and clause clearly biased in favor of the bank. One major case was CIMDB Bank Berhad with Anthony Lawrence Brooke and Ano in 2018, where the Federal Court ruled that certain clauses were invalid under the Contract Act 1950. But here the problem, even though the law is on the customer side, taking legal action is expensive, time-consuming and stressful. Many ordinary consumers don't have the resource to fight back. As a result, they are often left with only two choices: accept the contract or walk away from the financial assistance they are desperately need. This can lead to financial burden and a loss of trust in the system. So why don't people just read the contract before signing? The reality is they cannot if they want to. These contracts are usually long, complex, and full of legal jargon. Customers are given little time and no opportunity to ask questions. Also, there is an information asymmetry. The bank know everything, the customer know very little. This creates a dangerous situation where customer may unknowingly agree to terms that are harmful or non-compliant with Sharia. Over time, this leads to discriminatory practices where consumers are treated unfairly.
So, what can be done? The solution we propose in Islamic Finance Literacy or IFL. IFL is more than just knowing how to save and budget. It's about understanding Sharia compliant finance principles like the providing of riba, gara, and mansham. It also include awareness of concepts like halal investing, zakat, and making ethical decisions when managing money. IFL combine religious value with financial knowledge to help Muslims make the informed and fiscally responsible choice. IFL is powerful because of informed customer is a protected customer. When people understand Islamic finance, they feel empowered to question what's written in the contract. They are more likely to identify unfairness or non-Sharia compliant term, ask for clarification, transparency, and better alternative, file compliance when necessary. Educate customer, shift the power dynamic. Bank can no longer assume that customers are aware. As a result, Islamic finance institutions are pushed to follow better practice, leading to a system that is fair, more ethical, and more sustainable in the long term.
Teaching IFL, we selected ethical principle via Makasih Al-Shariah. We will start with Makasih Al-Shariah, the higher objective of Islamic law. Think of it as our ethical compass. Two objectives in particular are paramount here: Hifz al-Mal, the protection of wealth, and Adl, the establishment of justice. These aren't just abstract concepts, they are fundamental principles demanding fairness and transparency in financial contract. They explicitly prohibit any deceptive or exploitative practice that could unjustly disadvantage consumer. Here in Malaysia, the Securities Commission Malaysia further reinforced this through its Makasih Al-Shariah guidance for the Islamic capital market. This guidance emphasizes principles like clarity, transparency, upholding fiduciary duties, accountability, and preventing undue influence. All of this directly translate into an ethical imperative for Islamic bank to draft truly equitable contracts. Background in Islamic financial literacy in this Makasih-driven principle, we are not just teaching financial concepts, we are giving consumers the ethical understanding they need to identify and address unfair terms. This fosters true empowerment and ensures the sustainable growth of Islamic banking for everyone. To truly empower bank consumer through Islamic financial literacy, we need robust ethical framework. While Maqasid Al-Shariah provide the overall direction, specific framework help translate these objectives into actionable strategies. We integrate key Islamic ethical framework with global best practice, particularly the IFLA guidelines for continuing professional development. This approach aims to build a financially literate Muslim consumer base. First, Islamic education ethics emphasize lifelong learning, aligning with IFLA's focus on continuous need assessment and diverse learning opportunities for comprehensive IFL programs. Next, the Maqasidic leadership paradigms urge leaders to act in the public interest. This aligns with IFLA's focus on organizational commitment and resource allocation, ensuring robust IFL initiative. Then, a multidimensional ethical paradigms promote collective responsibility among individuals, institutions, and regulators. This resonates with IFLA's emphasis on collaborative effort and ongoing documentation of learning outcomes. Finally, the Madani ethical framework built on good governance, justice, and accountability is reflected in IFLA's best practice. This includes accurate information dissemination, selecting capable instructors, and effective training transfer, providing IFL with integrity and effectiveness.
My name is Muhammad Hafizuddin bin Suhaimi. My matric number is 07570. Now, I will presenting the final research sections of research which outlined the recommendations and way forward for promoting sustainable Islamic bank practices. Firstly, Islamic banks must recognize the ethical responsibility to embody the principle of Maqasid Sharia, particularly in adil and hifzul mal in all banking activities. To ensure this, banks should prioritize transparency, fairness, and simplicity in all contractual dealings. This includes using clear and understandable language highlighting juridical terms and providing ethical products are also used to align with Islamic values. Moreover, banks should facilitate meaningful engagement with customer trading staff who are both knowledgeable and approachable. This kind of consumer interaction move Islamic banking beyond world legal compliance and toward truly serving the welfare and right of the consumer, as emphasizing by Pakar 2024. Secondly, the role of regulators such as Bank Negara Malaysia BNM is very vital. BNM must improve its regulatory oversight not just by conducting thematic reviews but also by enforcing prescriptive and proactive standards specifically tailored to Islamic banking. In addition, BNM should consider making Islamic financial literacy or IFL a strategic requirement for all institutions. By doing so, consumers are not only protected but are also empowered to understand and assert their right. BNM can further enhance the regulatory framework by drawing from conceptual references such as a Securities Commission Malaysia's Maqasid Al-Shariah Guidance Report. This framework provides the moral compass necessary to codify ethical principles into practical regulation. The implications of this measure are far-reaching, establishing trust through ethical banking conduct and transparent financial education support a more sustainable Islamic banking sectors. By reducing information asymmetry and addressing the imbalance of power between banks and consumers, Islamic financial institutions can prevent market failures and restore public confidence. Ultimately, this initiative helps Islamic bank authentically represent the spirit of Sharia. In turn, they enhance institution legitimacy, drive long-term financial resilience, and contribute positively to a social economic development of the nation. In conclusions, the problem of unfair contracting poses a direct threat to the foundation values of Islamic finance, which are rooted in justice and transparency. The common use of standard forms contract without room for consumer negotiations violates Islamic ethical principle and risks diminishing consumer trust. A two-pronged solution is necessary. First, Islamic bank must realign their practices with the Sharia objective by designing fair, more transparent, and more equitable contracts. Second, there must be a national commitment to Islamic financial literacy. When a consumer are well informed and grounded in Islamic financial ethics, they are empowered to recognize and challenge exploitation practices. With this a combined effort, enhance IFL stronger regulations by ABNM and ethical banking culture. We can conclude that Islamic banking system then not only complies with Sharia law in form but also in substance, reflecting justice, protecting a wealth and fairness for all stakeholders.